2 inches. You know, and these guys live in New York City, so you can find this stuff in Canal Street cheap, probably. Don't buy it at like Office Depot or something. They charge you $8 for a roll. Yeah, no way. That's too expensive. You don't need to pay that kind of money. The only time you pay good money is when it comes to decorating, sealing the top. Now, as far as decorating goes, I'm going to make this a little brief, and I'm not going to go really complicated into the decorating part, because this is something you can do with your own imagination from here. Do we have any more questions? Because I'm kind of skipping over this really fast, as far as like what I explained to you so far. No? Okay, good. Now, as far as decorating your signs go, pick whatever you want. Okay, I love dollar stores. Okay. Yes, you damn right. I take gift bags. It's Mylar paper on a nice paper. Okay. I take wrapping paper. I take tissue paper. Anything that's paper, Mylar. The only thing I don't recommend is Mylar tissue paper. That stuff's nasty. You put spray tack on that stuff, and then you just don't get it right. It sticks to your fingers, and then you're like this. Just go away. But the roll-up Mylar gift paper, it's a little bit thicker than the Mylar tissue paper. That's better. But if you insist on using tissue paper, tape the bad boy down. Okay. I use this because I got it at Walmart and it was cheap. Okay. We love Walmart. I do, because they have a lot of cheap stuff there. And you can use anything, any kind of spray tack glue. When you use that type of glue, let me explain something to you. You better have something like this on the floor and a really good space, because that stuff gets all over the place. My vinyl tile in the kitchen is sticky. So I sit there with fingernail polish removal every once in a while to get the tackiness. Well, that comes off with that. If you use Super DD77 or something like, nothing gets that shit off. Okay? Or off your fingers. Now, fingernail polish removal, that gets it off your fingers and all that other stuff. Now, that's not good for using with the Mylar paper bags that you get from the dollar store. You have to use a heavier glue. And they sell a stronger strength than that brand. But, try not to use the DD77, but if you need to, fine. It's up to your imagination there. Now, I also use tapes, and I didn't bring those with me. They have, on my first set of spines here, this is gaffer's tape that I used. Okay, and gaffer's tape is like a fabric tape. And they sell it in fluorescent colors.
For attaching the decorative, is the glue basically just to hold it there while you're doing the other stuff, or does it serve a purpose other than? Because what I'm thinking is that, can you use embroidery tack?
Whatever you think is going to hold it.
No, it's this thing. It's the stuff that they use where you have to do an embroidery piece. You spray it on the fabric and stick it to paper.
Well, it's not
temporary.
Really?
It's like a temporary glue.
I never used that.
Oh.
I want it stuck there. I try not to make my spines bubble. Okay, because if they do bubble, they kind of do this click, click, click noise constantly. And, if you're playing it silently, you might not want to hear that. Canada has these sets of fans that, they have these little chime things on it. Yeah, they can kind of rattle your nerves after a while. It's a novelty, you know what I mean? But here, these are done with, this is P60, but don't worry about that. That's done with that's done with a paper bag. From the dollar store. Another thing that I use vinyl book covers. And let me see if I can. Here, well, my glass. The spines on these are done with vinyl book. These book covers for the kids that they use in the school. They're great. They're from the dollar store. Yes. I live in Philly, you know. There's dollar stores all over the place.
No, we have one in town.
You do?
Jersey City, every 2 blocks. Union City, we have.
Well, where I live at, it's like you go into Center City, it's a little on the ghetto side, so there's dollar stores like all over the place. And then as you go out, you know, you don't see nothing. Now, this is done with this type of paper, and I'll pass a bunch of these around for you guys. This is what they call bonded paper, which basically is paper that's colored on one side, not the other. And that's another find that I got at the dollar store, so is the orange. It's like laser jet paper. You know, the paper that you get at the Staples, we buy by the bolt. I noticed the colors weren't as bright. Walmart had brighter colors. Staples were more on the pastel side. Trying to think other stuff that I can explain to you as far as the decorating goes. I think that explains that part of it to you.
What's the
So-
easiest way of doing the decorating? You know, put the paper down, spray adhesive on the paper, and then put the spines on?
Yes. Now,
Or do you-
when you do your spines, there's different ways that you can do it. There are times where I will wrap my spine like a couple of times around. You know, wrap it one way. This. Can I explain that? And I should. Okay, I could do it with this. This is fine. Let's say this is something fluorescent. Okay. And I take my spine. After I put, if it has adhesive, if it doesn't, that's fine. I have to put something to make it stick. And you can either lay it down this way, which is flat, okay, and then put another layer, another layer, another layer, and keep them close to each other. It's a lot better doing it that way. And don't worry if you kind of make it fan out in a circle kind of. Okay, it's fine. Just as long as it fits on that paper. Or this is another way that I do it. I fold it over like this. If I know I got a good adhesive, I'll fold it over where I know that there's not going to be a gap, of course. And do it like this. And just cut it off. Or, if you don't want none of your sides to show, if you feel like you're on the perfectionist side, you're like that. Your spine is covered completely, okay? You can go to town on your decorating. That's all in your head there, okay? Now, there are 2 ways of, and I kind of skipped over this, and I need to go back a little bit, okay? When it comes to doing your fabric on your fans, there's 2 ways, well, there's a few ways of doing it, but there's one way where you just do a single layer, okay? And single layer is fine, but I found doing the single layer sometimes, my fans get stuck here, okay? And there's other ways that you can get about it, probably by cutting it down, but then you kind of ruin the seal, okay? Now here's another way that I found that basically this is, you can't lose this way. Just double layering it. So when you cut it out, you're cutting out for, 2 sets of fans actually. I found this way to be the best for myself. But it depends on how light you want your fan to be. or how much fabric you got, how much pretty fabric you found, and how far you can stretch it. Okay, and after I decorated the spine, and this is the different ways, there are one thing that I do not, as far as going to the ceiling of my spine, I do not skimp on my sealing tape. Scotch is the best. Very thick tape. They have ducky tape that shit sucks, whatever. Don't skimp on something that you're going to laminate with. It's storage tape. They have label tape that's clear, it doesn't turn yellow. Storage tape doesn't turn yellow. And it says over the years that adhesives don't wear off. So that's one thing I would suggest spending good money on.
Do you do more than one layer of the sealing tape or just one?
Just one layer. And when I do my sealing, I do it this way. Okay. I roll over twice. What would you call that? Roll over twice? Right? It depends on which way you're rolling over on, what side you're rolling over on, huh? But no, I roll over twice. And always try to end your seam at the end.
What width do you use that will have the less layers? Is that 3/4? Or you need 1 inch?
What?
As the tape. When you get the stripping tape, any specific width?
I never seen that tape in different, I always found it in 2 inches.
Oh, okay.
I never seen it in smaller. And I really don't care that, you know, that's something that you really need to spend the money on. You know, and I wouldn't worry about expenses when it comes to it.
Yeah, but you wouldn't put the full 2 inches on one spine, right?
Yeah.
One spine rather than across.
Yeah, you double wrap it right there. And then the rest is just put it on the side. You're not going to use it anymore. Stick it to your cat's ass, you know? Watch the rubbing spot on the floor. Okay, I'm trying to think what else should I explain to you guys, because I think I skipped over something. Okay, here's another part too with the decorating. Now, remember when I said that you can put it down in one layer and then put it on the other side, okay? Now, there's times that you want your decorations to kind of stay the same. See? You know, go along the line, matching. Well, the way to do that is basically, you know, of course you're going to do one layer and then you put the other layer. Now, one of these layers, because you're not going to see one side of it, you number it and you put an arrow. And you can take a look. And the arrow is basically how you spread it out. Past that image yourself.
Can I interject something?
Huh?
Another way of doing the patterns on the spines is if you take the spines and you lay them out this way, and if you had a ruler, this is one of Rob's things. You would take a ruler and you put it underneath, and you line them all up. Then you do a tape or one line of clear tape this way, and then another up here. And then you basically lay the mylar down, and you can, if you do a triangle, for example, it'll turn into a spiral because you're mapping from a rectangle onto a circle. So then you decorate one side, and then you would flip it over and do the same thing.
Well, anyway, also too, when you decorate, you can just mark from the hole out. This is what really matters. Okay, your hole. And you can basically, once you decorate it, let's say like this one. Where's that one at? This is how I am with doing it. Open a bit up. Whoosh. Okay. See how this one goes out like this? See? I mark that every inch. And I go on the top or the bottom of that mark and then keep going around. But that means I have to mark every spine that way. It's very time consuming. But, you know, it's all to your imagination. But as far as like keeping your spines in order, I found this way is the best way because I had to redo one of his sets. And stupid me, I dropped, after I disassembled his sets, and they were nicely ordered, I dropped them. Okay? Well,
Isn't that jigsaw puzzle?
yes, it was 2 weeks worth of jigsaw puzzle for 6 fans. I said, Jesus. He's like, send them back to me. I'm like, I was going to, but I'm like, you know, I fucked this up, I gotta fix it. And I'm stubborn, you know, I have to do it.
I have a question on this one. After you tape them up, and then I'm thinking of reinforcement to keep them from tape from not blowing. Can you either spray polyurethane or make them harder? Stiffer?
I really haven't had my tape come unglued except on my first set. That's just been worn away.
Okay.
And this is like, this is old, you know? This has had a lot of abuse, especially from me.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, you just go back later on. It's not gonna happen for a few years. So, you know, to be honest with you, I think the tape that I used on this wasn't Scott's either. So, I don't use gaffer's tape anymore because it puts a little too much of a gap on my spines. You know, it's a little too thick. And I think that's also a reason why it made my spines weirdo. But see, like this is an old set. And they're not worn, they're still sticky. I guess if if you tried glue, that might, you have to find something. I wouldn't go past doing that because it's just way too much work. But also too, you have to think the glue might ruin your adhesive. So it might act against each other. You might yellow it also. That's another thing you have to think about. But to be honest with you, you can take that thing apart, retape it real fast. You know, you only have to do the bottom half. But if, you know, it goes up a little higher, you can do the top half, it's easy. Retape it and then put it back together. Are there any other questions as far as?
I was a little confused on the order of the spines, like the numbering you were talking about.
Did you see
the
it?
arrows? And, no,
It's over here. It's over here.
Okay.
Are you referring to like them laying on top of each other, or?
Well, I cut them out so that they were in order, like a piece of wallpaper. And I wanted the wallpaper to match straight across.
But if it was like a solid color, that wouldn't really matter.
No, it doesn't matter there. But because I want the pattern to match.
So you're referencing a pattern. Okay. got it.
Yes.
All right. Now it's clear.
But did you make that one completed then? Or did you do that?
No, that was actually from gift wrap. Dollar store.
Oh, when you're numbering, is there any difference between the right and left then?
There really isn't until you start putting the thing together. Okay? And that's something these guys, you have to figure that out on your own. It's not hard to do. I don't know how to explain that one. That's really hard technical.
Which one?
As far as when you're putting these together, actually you can figure it out. When you're putting it together, if it doesn't work this way, and if you see it works the same way with one hand, then you kind of reverse it and stack it up a different way. You know, the other way, and then that way should work. You just go reverse for your other
You need
side.
to have them in reverse, and sometimes I pick them up and they do like two right-handed fans.
Yeah.
It's like, what was I doing? Smoking crack at that time?
Another thing I wanted to mention is I don't remember the name of the person I saw this on, but there are people that do all kinds of things decorating, like use nail polish. So you can do nail polish and paint, and they'll all look differently and play differently and feel different.
Yeah, these guys can actually paint your spines. This is, now, I found fabric doesn't stick on my spines very well. I painted fabric one time, and this is what I talked about bubbling up. But I painted these on a fabric and then I basically wrapped it around. Now I want you guys to see the bubbling up effect that spines. This also has it here too. And it kind of makes it makes like a clicky noise when you play them. I painted the fabric and then tried to glue the fabric to the spines and it didn't. I was able to glue the, basically what I did was I wrapped one, okay? It stuck there fast enough so that I can actually put the Scotch tape on it, wrap it real fast, and then I was done. It took, a little longer, but it was okay. Now I also painted the fabric, but I found that fabric paint actually sticks to each other if you leave it too long together, especially in the heat. That also has glow-in-the-dark thread on it too. You can't see it until it glows in the dark. Bless you. Those I call my gestures. Are there any other little questions on? Yeah, well, I didn't get to the decorative.
So
I have one
when you're
other-
putting them together, your left hand is always the stickers up here, and the bottom stick is so the numbers go down, right?
It's,
On
you
both
have to
ends.
figure that on your own.
It's not set.
It's not that it's set, it depends on what way you put it, okay? And then basically, and also how you play your fan. And I'm not gonna go into that discussion. Some people play their fans. I play my fans this way. Butts out,
Okay.
okay? That's, how a fan usually works. But there are people that play their fans this way. And I do that too at times. Especially when I go from back to forward and they get mixed up. I don't want to look like I'm screwed up. I just keep playing. They'll work. But that's something you will be able to figure out on your own. I mean, I'm sure you can open a damn thing and, okay, this goes this way. I need my spine direction to go in another. See? This way.
The key thing is that it's symmetrical and see if both outsides are at the bottom and both insides are at the top, as far as the outermost, like the handles. So as long as it's symmetrical, you're fine. But you don't want them both one way, because then...
Okay, now as far as trimming your fans go, my spines. Okay. After my fans are decorated, I trim my spines down to 1 inch from the hole down. I found that over 1 inch, they bind up on each other, unless you're playing your fans very tight. And because most use, well, I shouldn't say that, but most flaggers like me start out with their fans very loose. And if you start out with your fans loose, you need to trim your ass a little bit, your back end. And you trim it down to 1 inch. You can trim it down to a 1/2 inch, but I would say do it to 1 inch. If you trim it down to a 1/2 inch, your spine might split, and then you don't have more space for it to heal itself. But after you trim that down, I try to keep my ends even. Of course, these aren't that even, but they're not going to know when I put it together. It's doubled. So when the fans are doubled up on both sides of the fabric, you'll never notice this. You don't have to worry about cleaning that all up. Now, if it's a single layer like this, you really don't have to, because, who's going to see that? When it's spread out, they're not going to see it. But if you're that particular, you can trim them all down and make them nice. You don't really have to be that particular with your spines, because they're not going to see them when you're playing them. Okay? And as far as decorating goes, Yes, you can do detail, a lot of detail. But I will tell you, they're not going to see it. So basically, I would suggest, when I found, with my making spines, the bolder the pattern, the better. Okay? You can do as intricate as you want. That, it's whatever comes from here. A lot of things, like when I do silk fans, I don't want my spines to pop on those. So you can go nuts on those, with whatever papers and glitters and whatever you want. They're never going to see it. That's for yourself. But as far as if you're putting a lot of decoration on a nice set of spines, you're not going to see that from a good distance. But that's up to your taste there. Go wild. Now, as far as putting your fans together, I think I'm done with the decorating and laminating and all that stuff now, right? No questions asked of that. When I put my fans together, I have a huge picture frame box that you get at home, U-Haul. And it's like this thick and this big. And it holds a span of 36 inches of a fan. Or 40, I think it's 40 inches. And I wrap all my spines out. I stick a nail through it, a nice long nail. And then I stab it right through the hole. And then I spread my spines out. Actually, you could do this on a tabletop. I never found it to be that easy on the tabletop. But you can take a box or something like that, whatever you want. Or let's say you've got a floor that has gaps in it. Use that. Just put some, put a tablecloth or cut a trash bag open, and then you take your fabric. Actually, I should do this first. You take your fabric. You put it down nicely. Let's put that there so she doesn't go flying off. And then spread her out as evenly as possible. Oh, and I did forget to tell you guys something. Okay, when I do my fans, I like to mark the inside radius, what you call that?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, whatever the 6-inch part, okay? 6 inches from the hole to here. I mark it so that when you're gluing your fan fabric down, basically you can keep it's going to stay even all the way across. And I do this by eye. There are people that'll sit there on a box and mark out the radius of what 12 is, with a compass evenly where each part should go to. I eyeball it. It's good enough. And when you do that, do me a favor, guys. Do not put your end spine here very close to your handle. Okay? That's here. You'll never get your tootsies in there if you put it like this. Okay? If you put it too close, you'll never get your fingers in there. So, you leave a nice gap. See? And then you spread her out evenly, nicely, whatever makes you happy. Okay? And then you take white chalk for this one and mark everything. Because you're going to have to come back and glue the mommy down. I use goop because I sew my spines down, so I just need this to hold temporarily until I tack them down. Now, there are cements now that you really don't have to use the sewing machine anymore. There's glues that I know my friend Kent found on Fabric Row that they use to glue rhinestones onto your fabric with. Let me tell you, I had to get that shit off one time of his fan because I meant to repair it. I literally almost ripped the fabric off. I mean, rip the fabric itself. So I have to say that glue was good. Yes. Where'd you get that at, bitch? But after you mark it all down, then you go, I take a nail or whatever you want to spread it out with. Toothpick is too thin. I take a nail and I sit there, squirt a dollop, glue it down. And I could go all the way across. And then basically, I do then I do this side, and then I do my little sandwich, the double-sided fan. Now, if it's a single-sided, of course, it's just going to be one side. She's done there. Okay. Any questions as far as like this little spot goes? Okay.
When you sandwich, do you glue the other half down, or just when you sew it, that's it?
No, I glue both sides down in a sandwich. Okay. Now that's done.
Rather than using the box, I'd also use stone core.
That's actually a good idea too.
Of course.
That is. It's just, that box actually takes a lot of space in my house. But yeah, I make a lot of fans. I say I've probably made over 125 fans now. But I won't tell you how many were mistakes. We don't discuss that.
They weren't mistakes, they were learning experiences.
Yeah, we just hide those. Or else they come back and haunt you. Now, we haven't discussed about the handles, okay? And that's another area that we need to step into. After you get done gluing and doing your cutting here for this part and trimming this part out, you need to cut your handle, the back part of it, okay? And guess what I used to cut my handles with? Yeah.
Heavy duty.
I actually used to cut the spines with too, see? She does a great job. She cuts through a lot.
What's her name?
I don't know. Here, take a good look and go to the hardware store. I want side cutters or something like that.
Water cutter?
No, the wire cutters.
Alright.
They work perfectly on trimming your handles too, look. I don't want to trim too much because I'm going to have to come back and clip these. Okay? And I used that to trim my handles off with. But you need to trim off the top. Remember I said the top always comes out? I wonder if that goes with this. Oh, it doesn't matter right now. I think that goes with this one. Okay, I'm like, I think I cut these off crooked. But no, that goes with this one. And see how even that is? And then you take your top and you trim that down too. That has to be even. Now there are some people that I know that will also cut this part down. But with back fanning, I don't suggest doing that because it just makes it weaker at the top. And back fanning actually takes a lot of it out of your fan, okay? And that's also the reason why I reinforce here. I have a little birdie friend, and her name is Scott. And that girl, she spins her fan so hard, they come into Mommy's repair shop quite often, okay? I finally got pissed off where I used that twill tape that you use on your blinds that go down the side. Yeah, the V, it has the V lines in it. That tape is like really heavy. I put that on her fans. Bitch, she ain't gonna fix. I don't think coming back for a while. But no, she'll end up destroying the fabric on the sides. I mean, I picked up the fans one time. Here's the handle put in here. This was all flying. And that's when I was like, okay, we need to reinforce my fans. And it just teaches me a lesson as far as certain things. It'll make things. I know you guys won't be you're not as hard. I think I spoiled her a little bit. But, I don't think these guys are going to be as hard as she is on her fans. But it doesn't matter. If you ever buy any from me, send them back and they get fixed. Okay, now, the other part of doing your handles. Now, it all goes to what weight you're putting on your fans. Okay, these are like very lightweight. These are for, let's say, silk. I just want to reinforce here with that 1.5 inch or 2 inch filament tape, just wrapped around a couple times. After I'm done with that, then I just basically take what I'm going to decorate. Tape. I love using tape because handles actually take a lot of stress. And I know people that don't decorate it nicely and then they put Scotch tape around it. I found that kind of comes off after a while. Duct tape, great. Gaffer's tape, great. Whatever tape you know that's going to really take a lot of stress, wrap it around your spine. Or you can do it the other way. Decorate your spine nicely, wrap it around, then take that nice thick Scotch tape, wrap it around. But then remember, your hand is always going to hit that seam. And it's going to be on either side. So it will come apart after a while. So for your first fans, I don't recommend that. Now, after you get a little bit better, you can do it. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. You do it as your first fans. I never listen to anybody anyway. Now, if your fan gets a little heavier, okay, then what I do is I take this, my filament tape. After I wrap the bottom around real nice, I take my filament tape and go around and around and around and around and around. Then I go and I take my strapping tape or another tape, whatever. Just use two layers of this, go around and around again. Then put your decorating tape. And because I didn't want to waste my tape, because this costs more than this, I just put more another third layer. I marked the spot where it's 6 inches is right, and I just wrap the rest of it with this tape. But if you can see through it, then you need to go all the way around with the colored tape. Okay? There is one important thing that I kind of skipped over. What about the hole?
Oh, I was gonna ask.
Okay? Now, there are people that'll sit there and they got something skinny, and I have to ask Barbara about this. Barbara, when you have to end up poking your holes,
Yes.
do you use an awl? Do you use an awl like I do?
You can sometimes an awl or just heat up a nail or anything that'll just sort of seal.
But yours is real thin.
What is
Your holes are small.
it? Yeah.
Mine are big.
They're
Let's punch it out.
yeah, well, it depends on the thickness of the cord that you're going to be using, which, is, the thickness of the cord is based on how big
I use
your
a
fans are
drill.
going to be.
Dremel. I always thought about using a Dremel, but doesn't it get caught on your drill bit?
Really?
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
Power tool.
Okay. Well, if you use a drill, then you better put a wood block on the back end of it.
Yes.
Or a Dremel. I never got into that. I have a gas stove. I take this all, as you can see, it's been seasoned. And I put it on that gas stove underneath the flame, heat that bad boy up until it turns red. And you have to make sure it turns red for your handles, okay? Because that thing will just sear right through. And then you got a nice hole. And it's sealed. It also seals it too. And it also makes that hole bigger than what it used to be, okay?
Is there a way to mark it so you know the holes are exact?
Well,
You sort of feel your way through the paper.
Well, what I do is I actually poke. I didn't explain that either.
One of the things that I think Canada actually taught me when she was first giving me instructions was to poke the hole each time you do a layer instead of waiting until the whole thing is done. So that like you do it after the strapping tape or filament tape layer, make the hole. And it makes it much easier to find than trying to poke through several layers of sticky paper to get through, even with a hot awl.
No, that's true. The way I usually do it, I wait till, let's say I get all my strapping tape on. I can still see that hole, okay? And then I'll put one layer on one side of my decorating stuff. I poke that hole through. And it also puts the hole through that decorating paper. So when I go back, I can see that that hole's there, okay? The other thing you can do, which is another secret of mine because I've done so many of these now, I'll take this and I don't trim that handle down until finally I have all those holes poked for my spines. And I'll match that hole for my handle from the bottom of that spine once it's all decorated. And you usually find a hole there. It's not that hard. You keep it even. As long as you keep your handles matched with that set of spines that you cut apart. So, you know, when you do your spines, you don't take, oh, I'm going to take all, you know, 2 sets and put them together. You take one set of fans, one fan, wrap it up. Then you take the other one, wrap it up, and then you put both of them together. That's your matching set, but this is for one and this is for the other. Any other questions as far as like the...
Oh, when you're putting the handle on a separate step from putting the spines on, right? Or are you doing this all at once when you're laying it out?
No, I do the spines first.
Then the handles are another
Then
process.
no, the handles are next.
Yeah.
But as far as like decorating and everything goes, I do my spines first, then I decorate my handle. Then I go to assembling. I'm sorry, I kind of like skipped over the handle part and the burning of the hole. Okay. Now, you know, you have to find out what you think might be best. I found out this was actually good for me. Now, if you don't have, I don't know if the electric stove would heat this up hot enough. So if it doesn't, you can use a soldering iron. And that'll put a nice hole in there. Actually, you wouldn't have to keep reheating it too, which is nice. The only thing is keep the window open because you can smell tape all over the house. That, and you can see, when I start gluing, oh my God. Me and the dogs are high. Because I'm not just doing one set, I'm like doing maybe 10 sets in one day, gluing them all down. Ooh.
Well-ventilated area.
Thank God I don't smoke in the house anymore. Poof. Okay, now, and I told you that you should mark your handles, right? Just like you do to your spines. So when you fit it, either you're going to roll it, like I explained before, you know, or you do like a pocket thing like I do. And you put it in there. You put it up to the line. Okay? Now I guess we should go to a little bit of decorating now, huh?
How did you come up with the song? What about the statue? What about the string?
Oh, guys, you know that the reason why I put 2 pieces of fabric under my handles, I told you, just because my friend was ripping through. But I found that if you didn't sew it down, it would like bubble all over the place. So I would like just do some type of like crazy stitch on top so that it won't come apart. Whatever you want to do. I mean, I've done it where it looks... I think I sold that one. Yeah, I probably did. But you can do it with contrasting threads like this. And you just take the pressure off this sewing foot and you just keep turning and turning and turning and turning. Sorry. Okay, so I guess we can go into the decorating now.
Well, you put the spines together. What do you thread?
Girl, you're gonna get on my nerves.
What do you recommend to use for thread? Like
Any type of thread.
doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Like string or nylon
Probably not rod, but probably hold up better.
I don't know. I found anything works because you're tacking and you've got like 20 tacks on it. You know.
I mean, I was talking about the string. It puts the spines together.
Oh, okay.
About that.
This here actually is shade cord, and I had to buy a lot of this, but you could probably buy this down here someplace. And this is used for, this particular cord is used for a wooden shade. So it doesn't stretch as much as some of the other stuff does. But it does stretch, let me tell you, it does. And when you cut your thing out, you kind of cut out extra, because you're going to keep knotting it and knotting it. And because a lot of you are probably going to play your fan loose, you won't have to worry about it. When you cut your thing, a lot of times these particular, the strings are made out of nylon or something. Burn the ends. Just take a match. You know, pretend this when you were a kid. But no, you burn the ends and it keeps it from fraying. Okay? Now, the other thing you can use as a shortcut too, I use shoestring. Okay? It just depends on how tight you want your spines to be. You can get away with shoestrings. You know, go to the dollar store. You can get shoestrings if you don't feel like looking all over New York to find what you need. You know, just as long as you burn a big enough hole in your spine and your handle. Okay? And remember, when you're burning that hole, force it through, but don't, you know, really force it through where you're going to make the handle split or the spine itself. Just keep pushing and pushing. The heat will burn it through. Any other questions?
Do you use rawhide?
I did, but it breaks.
You use what?
Rawhide. The older generation used to use
Fuck you!
Okay, I should get slapped for that one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, John.
I'm only 61.
She's gonna get me later.
With rawhide.
Yeah. Now, as far as decorating your fan goes, we've gone with assembly. As far as the handles, I don't think I skipped over anything. I think I'm pretty complete there. Okay. And decorating your fans, I already went over the fabric. Now, I need to explain to you about the length of your fabric and the decorating part, because those both go hand in hand with each other, okay? And the length of your spines. And I don't know how to explain this one. Let me try to explain it, and we have a lot of questions. We'll go on from there. Okay, let's say you go from here and it's 6 inches, and your spine is supposed to be 12, okay? You want to go another 6 inches out. And that's usually your maximum length for this particular spine. Now I have spines that are 15 inches long. These are the older spines. I got lucky and bought a shitload of those. And that's what this one is here. And then this is 7. And then basically I went out another 7 inches. And then you can also go out, actually no, I explained that one wrong. You can go out another 6 inches. You go from here and then you can go out another 6 inches. That's your fabric area, okay? You can go out another 6 inches, which is a total of 18, okay? And that could be all fabric, or you can go, you know, out your 12 inches, or you can go shorter than your 12 inches, but you can go all the way up to 18. Am I getting you lost here?
Can you draw
on
it for
that?
us?
I'm sorry?
Can you draw it up on the wall?
Yeah. God, I'm not used to doing this one. Now, if you asked me to do this, you know, downstairs, I would have probably ripped my scarf to death. Okay. And here's your spine. Okay. That's the center mark. And let's say this is 6 inches. Okay. A lot of the fanners will go That's 6 inches. Your spine might go up to here. That's your other 6 inches, which is 12. Okay? 12. Which is here. You can go out another 6, either fabric or trim. Okay? A lot of times I will take my spine down to, there's times where I'll take it down to 10 inches, but I still have it measured at 6. And that means I have 8 inches of trim. Or I just go straight down where it'd be an 18 inches.
There.
Which is it?
Whenever you're ready, we can wrap up in a few minutes.
Okay. Okay. It could be 36 inches all the way around. Okay. It just depends on how you want to decorate your fan. Let's say you do 7, you go 14, then you go 21. Okay. You can go full 21 inches as far as your width goes, but try to stay 21 is your maximum length. 18 is your maximum length. You could do it longer, but it makes the fan slower and floppier. Yeah, it might not work as well or balance this nicely. Any other questions? I can't go into the decorating. I guess it's going to have to be another class for next year. I gotta save some stuff. Make my stuff still more interesting. If you guys have any questions, here's my email address. I would actually like it if you would call me better. It's 215-922-2258. Okay? And if you get stuck on something, call me. I can call anybody, any place, anytime. It doesn't cost me anything. Okay? I guess that's it. Sorry I couldn't go into it a little bit longer there, but I think I gave her balanced instructions. The last part was on how nicely balanced your fan would be. Okay?
That's 2258?
Yes, 2258.
Welcome, hi everyone. So, I know that there are going to be more people starting in, and I'm kind of torn whether or not we should wait, because the first part of this talks about soap. So do I say 5 minutes, or do I write vinegar smell? The vinegar is part of the dyes. And what you're looking at on your table is pretty much my dye kit. If you were to come to my house and dye with me, you'd be looking about the same. Okay, so I'm not holding anything back. The one thing that I am not going to do, though, is teach you what pattern you're going to make. You're going to create your own by looking and learning from each other. So I'm going to teach you the process by which you make a set of flags. When you start making flags, the most important thing is the silk. The silk that we use is actually a lining. The inside of a jacket, a slip. Women's blouses, maybe on the heavier end, could be made out of the silk. Better than undergarments. Silk boxers would be made out of this. They're for underlining. And I use silk from Dharma Trading, and I know that there's things around there. I don't know that Dharma's on there, but you can go anywhere and look for things called 8 mummy, 5 mummy, 10 mummy silks. If it's any type of assault in the silk shop, they're going to know. The MM is like millimeter, 8 mm, and you pronounce the MM mummy. Now there's different types of silks out there. I like to use in the range of 5 to 10. I always say if there were a 7, that would be my favorite, but there's no 7, it's 5, 8, or 10. You have 3. The lower the number, the lighter the silk. The bigger the number, the heavier the silk. Right. So, I'm going to start here. The first set of flags coming around are going to be a light silk. And the second set of flags coming around are going to be a heavy silk. The light silk that I like to use Synthropol. I've heard the word Synthropol. I think that might be a chemical name for whitewash or what's in here. I know them as optic whiteners.
No, actually it's not, it's just really, it's heavy detergent to get all the crap out of that.
Okay, well the detergent, if you wash them in hot water, and I asked Haley, this bolt down here is 50 yards of fabric. She put 50 yards in one tub with one of these and a little bit of soap. So this is the light soap, and the other is the heavy. Now, just because I like using 5 and 10 doesn't mean that that's the only way that we can do this. You can do this, you can use, or 5 and 8, you can use 10. The 3 money is very light. You maybe have 1 strand of weights in there. So, all right, I've got some other soaps for you to try. Most of the soaps that you're used to, right? Well, the fact that it's a stretch makes it more expensive. The flat crepe is just a little bit more. When I first met Canada, she grabbed my flag bag and she went through them and she's all these flags feel the same. So I was only using 8 mummies soap. And that taught me a lesson. And I now have stretch, I have 5 mummy, I have 10 mummy, I don't put any of my flags the same. I don't cut them ever the same, even though I know kind of what a yard feels like. And I measure out, I'll be measuring out 2 yards for you guys today. This is the crepe. But if you feel this,
This is the white.
this is spongy. Right.
What's the difference then? This is crepe too, right?
Look in the corner and find there's 4 corners, unfortunately.
Yeah, it says
This is a flat crepe. This is not flat crepe. Feel it.
What's this called?
This is just a crepe. It's actually yeah.
This is crepe.
The reason that I'm showing you all this is there are different types of silk. That's the big thing. The last two I'm passing around, the fanners in the house are going to like. That's because Larry likes these. He likes indestructible flags. I've got a 16 and a 19. So feel them, and you know it's something that you want to consider. Also notice that these are square. I made Larry 360s with those, as opposed to 16 on them. Quicker. But before you start folding, or maybe I should even say this. You have silk. You will be getting 2 yards of silk like this. Right? 2 yards of silk. And this silk you're going to fold in half. Okay? You're going to fold it in half and put this, that way you have a mirror. You have one side and the other side that are exactly the same. Now don't fold that paper in half purposely. If you were to look at this paper, like the silk, okay? You see the relationship I want you to get here? I don't want you to think that you're having to fold this in half and then fold it more. It's getting too small. Think it radiates out. And if you want that pattern to radiate out from the middle or from the side, and also I'm showing you something specific. I like this. I like the radiating out pattern, but this is not the only pattern that you can do. Geometric square folds. We had Amanda did a fantastic pair when she made something that was more of a square fold. This is just my style. Where did I start? On that piece of paper, where did I start? Do you see where I start on here? Right. Do you see where I start? So some people might want to spot in the middle, so then it's folded in the middle, okay? So right now, start doodling with that piece of paper. When you fold it, keep it folded. When you fold it, try not to fold over and over again. For example, if I were to come down, I wouldn't come down and wrap this around. I don't want that, because what's in the middle is very far away from the die cut that you're going to be dyeing the flags with. Instead, think more of an accordion. Think going back and forth, and back and forth. Did you all see that? So if I were to lift it up, it would kind of often like this. So you can get that tip in easily in the silk. Residual dye on them from the last. You could dry them here, I'll push you. Do that another day. Trust this and go with this because I won't know, but that's okay. The circles are good. I want you to experience something else because circles are easy. Do the hard stuff with me, and the rest of it will be easy. So, but yeah, it sounds works good. I have them all over my hands. Cotton for, well, they will stay in cotton, but they're not going to stay there forever. So I need 2 more, 3 more. So, as you're getting ready, on all of your tables is this little tie-dye kit. And I want you to pick 2 and max 3 colors. Don't worry, we've got a variety of different colors. Every basket is just a little different. Pick 2 colors, maybe 3. And start putting some of that dye on that soap. Try it. And grab a couple colors and start applying some dots. Or, yeah, start applying. This is not in the middle. I'm not going to send this on too long. Is that color going to go through? In just a minute, we're going to hold up and we're going to look at what everybody did. But right now, just add some color. Use at least 2 different ones.